have a few questions for you. What if the problem was never you? What if it was the lens you were taught to see yourself through? What if you didn't need fixing? You needed the truth. What if you've been trying to solve a problem that never actually existed? What if healing doesn't start with doing more? It starts with seeing things differently. Stick around for this episode to answer some of those questions and some others that you might have. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of The Nourished Life for Christian Women. Hopefully, you're busy building a life that truly does nourish you and doesn't exhaust you. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been pulling apart something pretty deep. The idea that maybe the feeling of I should be doing better, or the quiet pressure of why can't I just get this right, might not actually be telling you the truth. In the last episode, we talked about how women slowly learn to distrust themselves, not all at once, but over time, through messaging, through expectations, through subtle reinforcement that says, you can't trust yourself, but here's how to fix yourself. And if you've joined me for the event this past week, you probably started to see this in a whole new way. But today, this is where it gets real. Because there's a moment, a very specific moment, when everything starts to shift. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it doesn't usually look like a breakthrough the way that we expect. It sounds more like this. Wait, what if I'm not the problem? And I want you to notice what happens right after that thought. For most people, it's not relief, it's resistance. Because if you're not the problem, then why have you been working so hard to fix yourself? Why have you been carrying so much pressure? Why has so much of your life been built around trying to be better? This moment can feel disorienting. It can also feel scary. It can feel uncomfortable because it disrupts a belief that may have been quietly running your life for years. The belief that if I just try harder, I'll finally be enough. I'll be good enough. I'll be smart enough. I'll be wealthy enough. I'll be thin enough. I'll be whatever enough. But if I just try harder, I'll be enough. But what if you were never behind to begin with, honey? Let's ground this because I don't want this to stay abstract. Think about how this shows up in your actual life: food, your body, your routines, your thoughts. You eat something quote unquote off plan, and the thought comes in, oh, I knew it. I have no discipline. I can never stick with this stuff. You miss a workout and you think, oh, I need to get it together. You feel tired and think, I shouldn't feel like this. You feel overwhelmed and think, other people handle this so much better than I do. Do you hear that? Every single one of those moments reinforces the same idea, the idea that there's something wrong with me. And this is what's important. That thought creates a feeling: pressure, shame, urgency, defeat. Lovely, huh? And from those feelings, we act, resist, overcorrect, shut down, try harder. And what's the result? You stay stuck in the same cycle, not because you're broken, but because the thought itself was never true. There's a moment in the New Testament that I think about often. In John 8:32, it says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Not hustle will make you free. Not fixing yourself will make you free. Not more discipline will make you free. Not even knowledge will make you free. Truth. But this part we don't always talk about. Truth doesn't always feel freeing at first. Sometimes it feels confronting, even terrifying, because it asks you to go to a version of yourself that you've been working hard to let go of, a version of yourself that you've been working hard to become, the better version, the finally getting it right version. And instead, it invites you back to the version of you that was never the problem, the one who could trust herself, the one who could listen inward, the one who didn't live under constant evaluation. Maybe you can't even remember what that feels like. But what actually changes when you begin to see this? You don't suddenly become perfect. Hate to burst your bubble right now. That's not the shift. The shift is you stop turning every moment into evidence against yourself. You eat something, and instead of judgment, there's curiosity. You feel off, and instead of panic, there's compassion. You notice a pattern, and instead of shame, there's understanding. You start to stay with yourself instead of correcting yourself. And this is where real trust begins to rebuild, not through control, but through relationship. If something in this episode stirs something in you, I want you to sit with this question. What if nothing ever was wrong with me? Not as a mantra, not as something to force yourself to believe, but just as a question. Let it be a doorway. Because the moment you stop trying to fix yourself is the moment you finally have space to understand yourself. And that's where everything really begins to change. Now, I'm not talking about no self-improvement. We're just perfect the way that we are. I'm talking about looking at ourselves instead of as a project to fix, as somebody who's in process, and taking time to just pause with grace and compassion and understand why we're where we are and how we are, and letting that be okay in that moment, accepting where we are. And not just, well, this is where I am, I have to accept it, but really, oh, okay, I see. This is where I am. I can stay here if I want, or I can change if I want. Neither option improves my worth. My worth is just there. It's just an option that can, and a choice that can only be made when we see clearly. If you're in that space right now where something is starting to shift, but you don't quite know how to walk it out, that's exactly the kind of work that I do with women. You don't have to figure it out alone. But for now, just stay with that question. If you want to explore it a bit, I'm happy to do that. I offer a free half-hour consultation call, and we can just look at that question. You can find the details in the episode description for this episode. And in the meantime, remember, eating is peaceful, movement is joyful, and your worth never up for debate. See you next time. If today's episode or any other has resonated with you, I wanted you to know that I offer a free 30-minute call. If you'd like to schedule that, you can find the details for how to do that in the description for this episode. And in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe.